Welcome to Coconut Oil Stardust and Dope Vibes. This is your resident fairy godmother, Tamara Angela. This is another bonus episode. I actually recorded this, but it didn't, like, on another platform, and it didn't come out well. So we are re-recording, which is great because, I don't know, some new information may emerge as we're talking. So, 2023, what to expect? 2023 is going to see us have a lot of internal healing. Now, those of you who follow, I've been talking about 2023 to 2025, really. 2025, 26 feels very, it's like a huge pivotal shift that is going to occur. And it feels like it's nothing like we've ever experienced before. I said a while ago that I think there were some very pivotal shifts in history. And I'm not even going to say a shift, but just these points at which things changed and it's like, wow, this was really progressive, right? And I feel like the last time that really happened, excuse me, I feel like the last time that really happened, um, I feel like we thought it was supposed to happen, going from 99 to 2000, going into another century, but that didn't quite happen on the scale at which we thought it was or we expected it to. I feel like the last time something this large happened was when we went from going from candles to electricity. Like, that was a huge pivotal shift. And it wasn't just having electricity. It was like, electricity is here. You can flip this switch and you can have this in your house. There was a space in which historically people were like, I don't know about that. I'm going to keep my candlelight because that looks like that could kill people. Because they were so afraid and they didn't understand the technology of it all. It was such a huge change. I don't think we understand that change because everything we do is plugged in. I mean, from the phones, now cars. When you walk into a place, there's just light. You take for granted when you click your lamp. We joke about the light over the stove. I mean, light is everywhere. We're paying the electricity bill. It was all these things. And lighting and electricity effectively for a minute, it put the candle maker out of business. Candle makers did that because you had to have candles, right? Now we shift things and, things changed for the candle makers, and it became, you had to encourage people to have it for a luxury, right? Something that's relaxing. But the reality is people had candles in their house for so long. I think there was a space where they didn't really ever really kind of get away from it. Because then it's like, well, what if this electricity goes out? Okay, we have candles. And then what did they do? They created flashlights, which were battery powered, or you could charge the flashlight up and then it's going to work, right? How many of you even have flashlights in your house? When the electricity goes out, you should still have a battery powered one, because the reality is, if power went out, you can't just use the flashlight on your phone, because your phone could go out and you there's no way to keep recharging the charger if the power is out. But if you have a battery operated one and extra batteries, you'll have a light indefinitely. Or what do? We go light a candle. So there's that space where we never quite walked away from the power of the light of fire and candles. But of course, you don't have lanterns in the street anymore as street lights. Like, you actually have solar powered lights versus electricity. The lights come on based on when the sun goes down. There were all, like, it was such a huge shift in the way that that humans lived, and it overturned so much. And I feel like what is coming for us technology wise, and everything coming between 23 and really 25, 26 is going to be pivotal on that scale. The way that we communicate, like I said, we never really lost the need for a candle. Candles are $1 million industry, right? Now they're scented. They still use candles in churches and, religious worship and things like that. And so we've never actually lost the need for us to have candles and candlelight. It's just that the way that we go about using it is totally different, right? So I feel like the same thing is going to occur with communication. It's like we went from landlines, which some people still have a landline. So we went from landlines. Obviously landlines are still a thing in businesses. So we went from landlines in the house to personal cell phones. Now there's a gazillion different kinds of cell phones. And the way that we communicate. My thing is, we're going to get back to coming back to human interaction, more human interaction. We have to get back to that, which will bring us back to being intuitively connected with what? Telepathy, tapping into our intuition, just having that knowing that, something that's going on with the loved one, or we can feel a loved one's impulses or things like that. And so we're going to go from this space where we got high, like this high level of technology, to coming back to basics, which we're going to need, right? Because that speaks to the level of connection, like human connection, and strengthening human connection, which in turn helps us to strengthen our communities and things like that. We are getting to a place of healing, internal healing of these obsolete DNA codes. So as we continue to incarnate, our souls get familiar with doing certain things, practicing a certain way, acting a certain way, being a certain way. Our souls get very familiar with that in each incarnation. And every time you come back, it's like, oh, this is what you do. And so you lean very much toward your familiar. Well, there's certain things that are super familiar that we don't need to do anymore, because there's no need to do it. So this is an human adaptation thing. Like, you have to adapt to where you're going. This is how survival of the fittest kind of comes in. Can people adapt? Can they transform? Can they go with the wave of change? And so you have these obsolete DNA codes that, like, we came into a new incarnation, and it's like certain stuff we realize is not working, and we're like, why is this not working? What is going on? This is like, you feel that crunch. You feel how uncomfortable things are. You feel how things aren't working in a way that they should. And then here comes the existential questioning. Who am I? How does this work? Who am I in, parallel to other humans and their existence and their experience? So in this healing, we're going to experience a lot of growing pains. those, if you've raised a child from being small to, adulthood, that they go through these growing pains. And there are actual aches and pains within the body when a growth spurt happens, because you just like kind of literally wake up overnight and you grew 2 inches, your pants don't fit. When those things happen, you do have like actual physical aches and pains that you can't really like explain. So humankind is going to go through a level of those growing pains. We have to get back to our circadian rhythms, just having an understanding of being tapped into the world around us. So for instance, those of us that have like neuropathy, arthritic pain, so your neuropathy with like migraines and stuff like that, you already know when the bad weather is coming, right? Migraines, arthritis, when the rain is coming, when the dip in barometric pressure is coming, when the weather's about to change. Your body signals it. And then boom, oh look, it's raining. Our bodies are attuned to the normal rhythms. This is why people are so sick with seasonal affective disorder. This is why people have trouble with more depression when it's darker outside earlier. This is why the time change has highly affected us. And there's a space where we've kind of learned to adapt to what we're doing when the time is changing and things like that. But we've adapted in such an unnatural space. It's causing us physical issue. We've got to get our bodies back in rhythm, back in understanding the flow. Like we are as our human body is a parallel to everything that occurs in the universe. All the natural impulses of the universe, our bodies are a mirror to that, are a parallel to that. And so we have to get back to those circadian rhythms, really paying attention to the almanac and things like that. Like, it really floors me that people are so off with astrology, but almanacs have been using the moon phases for centuries, because that's how our food is grown. But we're so far removed from that, because half the people just go to the grocery store and go get Funyuns and Cheetos all day. They don't even realize that that's how food is grown, is by us being tapped in that way. We're so far disconnected. It's crazy. So these next few years, there's really going to be a push and a movement for us to get back to what's more natural. On a personal level, a lot of us need to rewrite contracts to undo what was unconsciously created or subconsciously created. I actually did a whole class on soul contracts on the Love Experience Academy. We talked about soul contracts and what that's like, and you come into this life with a theme, with a purpose, with a reason for being here, and you've already kind of written that contract, and then experiences, other people's free will, your free will, things change. And so you have to rewrite some contracts and say, okay, I learned that lesson. I don't like that doesn't have to keep cycling through. I can clear that karma out, make space for something new. I can prepare my soul for the next incarnation. Like, that's part of what you're supposed to do in this life too. You're not supposed to just keep living out all the old stuff. You're supposed to clear the old stuff out as you learn the lesson and make space for new stuff. We're going to be clearing a lot out at a cellular level. So this is a lot of reconfiguration of who we are. Like, we can't just keep repeating the old karma and these old, like, these archaic ways of doing anything, these archaic doctrines, these archaic ways of thinking. People right now are like smash the patriarchy. Like, I get that. But there's a lot of other doctrine that has been versed in us subconsciously, that we need to get rid of. And so there's more exploration than just, what's popular. There's some depth there to some other spaces where we really need to dig in deep. I'll continue to talk about those things, but this is where your intuition has to guide you. And we need to listen more to those who are inclined and assigned to spiritually lead, because those conversations will continue to come up. There's a lot that has to be undone. And those who are versed with and charged with teaching that will teach you how to undo it. They won't just talk about what needs to be done. There'll be conversation about how to undo it as well. That's what teaching is. A lot of, we have to clear a lot of this out, because like I said, we have to prepare ourselves for the age of Aquarius and prepare ourselves for our descendants. I said a while ago, I was like, we're going through some stuff. Things look good on the other side, but like, it's going to be a little crunchy for a minute. It's going to be a little tumultuous. It's going to be a little crazy, but stuff comes out well on the other side. We just have to get through, and we have to all do our part. I think that's like super important as well. One of the things that I wrote down that came with this is having the understanding that ancestral magic doesn't have to wait until death. Like, we are currently the ancestors, right? Because we're going to have descendants that come after us. There's always going to be a generation after us. We have to tap into our magic now while we're alive. Like, continuing to wait for I'm drawing on my ancestors. That's great. But that's more pie in the sky kind of stuff. It's like, oh, nothing really happens powerful until you're beyond the veil. No, you need to be tapped in now. Like, this side matters too. This side of the veil matters a lot. It lays a lot of groundwork. So we're not waiting for those who have passed on to do it, because once a soul has passed on, they have different assignments as well. And it's not always geared towards us. That's just very selfish, self-centered thinking that humans who are alive have. It's just that, oh, they're over there and they're ready to help us. No, ma'am. Everybody over there doesn't have an assignment to help us over here. Some people are supposed to just rest. Some folks, their souls aren't going to incarnate. Some of them, just because they over there doesn't make them your guardian angel. It doesn't mean that they're, needing to come and speak to you on this side of the veil. None of that is true. None of that is true. All of it's true and none of it's true. And so, there is, we really have to gain a respect for how all of this works on this side of the veil and beyond, so we can understand that the magic circulates. Energy is alchemy. It never dies. Never. So you should be working now. There's going to be a lot going on we need to have that conversation again about these time zones, and just go do your research on why we even have time zones in the first place. It's documented. There was a reason, and it was all due to the Industrial Revolution and money making in the railroad. So go do your research on that. It's highly affecting us now in ways that are just kind of crazy. And climate change is going to send us for a loop, which is why we need to get back to tapping into the farmers, the almanac, and people who study earth science. We need more of you out there studying earth science, and how the earth works now, like the adaptation of certain species and things like that. Like, we need that information now. Y'all got to start listening up. There's a lot of political change and unrest that's going to happen because there are basically, this information isn't hidden. It's not hidden. Like it's hidden in plain sight. So there are others who know this stuff because they have someone like me. Because there are oracles, they're still using oracles. Trust me, those that are in power are still quietly using oracles. They're not the ones that receive the information themselves. They still tap into oracles. And so they're receiving this information and they're skewing things to work in their favor for politics, money, and power. And so a lot of these political upsets and races and things like that, it has to do with trying to keep things the way it is, so that way the power stays in the hands who have always had it. The issue is that has to change, because it has no place and no bearing in where we need to go and anything that is healing. And they don't want to step down, and that's fine. But God prevails. God prevails. And so we're going to see a lot of deepening of these political upsets. Please look beyond the surface. Look beyond the surface. None of what we need to live is superficial. Everything is beyond the surface, because that's where the deep healing takes place. So bonus episode, a bit about 2023. I'm going to be talking to y'all, giving y'all more bonus episodes of the downloads that I received, keeping you updated. Please share the podcast. Talk to me about what you've seen. Talk to me about how anything resonates. Please share the information, share the podcast, because sharing knowledge is the way God intended it. Thanks for joining me. I am your resident fairy godmother, Tamara Angela. Thanks for tuning in to Coconut Oil, Stardust, and Dope Vibes.